desert. It's really a beautiful place. The living quarters, not bad.
Yeah, because it's
a good design.
It's amazing when you go in there because they've left it like someone's living there. But
still has their suit hanging up.
Yeah, and the paintings and their notebooks. But if you're saying that they fell out for a year and they're all in the same living, I mean, they've all got their own rooms, but they're all quite close to each other, aren't they?
They refuse to cook or eat together, so they go off and eat. They would eat together. That's Jane Fortune. She sort of made a career of it afterwards. She does TED Talks and things. This is Roy Walford, who was a nutrition expert.
Whoa. Before and after?
Yeah. And that's Burroughs and Allen on the outside, Mark Nelson on the inside. And he's gone on to do, that guy.
This is the best.
What? I don't know if you heard, but it came out that he was involved with it too when there was a sort of division between management and the people at the subjects. He came in as kind of cost cutter. And that's it. This is what some of it's like now. There are some of these disused lab areas. And a private company came in and was going to make it into a resort, I think. And that didn't last. This is also more. But there are there's this hotels and swimming pools and stuff that are disused. They're rotting away there.
In the surrounding area?
Yeah, right near. Yeah, it's really not. The public isn't supposed to go there, but you can walk over to it. And this is Synergia Ranch, which I think predated Biosphere 2, and it's still going on. So a lot of the people who were involved with Biosphere 2 are involved with this. And that's John Allen now.
Yeah, because in Arizona there's a lot of communities, aren't there? There's a lot of New Age communities.
Yeah.
So yeah, what is the Synergia Ranch?
It's a place where they have conferences where they talk about sustainable living ideas.
Did they come to any useful conclusions in the 2 years, apart from not being able to live together? Did they say...
They felt like it was possible to do it, and they hadn't figured as much about the psychological side of it as they probably should have. And when they had the second group, it went much more smoothly. So maybe they figured that out. What's that?
Why did it go more?
Why did it go better? I don't know. Maybe better group of people. It was actually it was more diverse group. The first group was all white, and it seems like adding diversity to it maybe helped.
But was it the second group where they lost the oxygen after 6 months?
No, it was the first.
It was the first group.
So a lot of that stuff was
Resolved.
worked out.
Did they have the same number of people, or did they need more?
Yeah, it's the same heat.
The size of the overall infrastructure grew or remained the same in the second version compared to the first one?
Oh, it's the same. Yeah.
It's the same.
Yeah.
Why to make such a big thing from the very beginning if you are even not sure?
Well, that is a good question.
I don't know,
That's what I'd like to know. Correct. Why would an oil magnate want to spend all this money on? What's the purpose of it? I mean, they were talking about it as a station in Mars, but then you have to think, who's going to go to Mars? Who's going to use this? This is only for 8 people.
And
Would
who's
that be
going to
tax
build it?
evasion?
I mean, how do you build that while you can't breathe? And yeah, there's some holes in this.
But it's really funny because, yeah, he's an oil magnate and he's funding work to help us with climate change. So even if he was doing it for incorrect reasons, which I don't think he could have, I mean, that's so much money to waste. I mean, that would be ridiculous. But he's actually helping the study because he's still funding it, isn't he? He's still putting money towards climate models, and they've got these solar fields with solar panels and stuff. So maybe it's like a karmic thing, like he's trying to work out his guilt by giving all the money. I don't know.
Maybe he had problems with his father or something.
Maybe that's it as well.
Yeah.
What is this?
Oh, this is some of the artwork that came out of it. So this was a show that was it was shown in field projects in New York. It was a small space, and then Galveston artist residency where Grace was. She saw the show.
Yeah, that's where we met.
Yeah. Photographs of some of the disused spaces. Small washes. That's Mars. Just a Mars.
So would you like to go to Mars? Why not?
I don't want to be in a situation where we have to go to Mars. It seems like that's...
No, but would you personally, would you like to go to Mars? If they gave you a ticket so you could go there.
No. Not unless I could bring my kid.
Okay, so you and your kid.
I can bring my kid?
Yeah.
It's going to be like this.
I've never been.
It's got to be nice.
Okay.
I don't want a little hut.
You want the biosphere. Okay, I understand.
You have to have a lot of space because you got to grow your own food.
Yeah. Yeah, because they've still got the stuff, but they don't have the agricultural section, and they don't have the animals anymore. That's all gone, hasn't it?
Well, that was one thing the Russians could figure out, is how to do it on a small scale with just the right balance of agriculture.
What was the energy source, or where did they get their electricity from? From a power station?
No, it was all there. They have power, they have generators there.
Did they try solar? Didn't they use passive energy in the middle of the
That's a good
desert?
question. I don't know.
With all that glass?
I never saw any solar collectors there.
Wow.
Not that time. Early 90s, I don't think there were.
Sure they were.
Well, yeah.
There must have been, I think there was.
There was.
Since the 70s there's been solar.
But on that building,
Oh,
there
yeah.
wasn't any.
I
They
thought I
were
saw
using-
solar panels on the outside.
Did you? It's perfect. It's perfectly shaped for solar.
No,
Yeah.
no, I don't know.
I went on a tour. He told me, but I can't remember.
Okay.
So if you had to design a biosphere, what would you change? If you had unlimited money like this guy, how would you improve it? What was wrong?
Well, the one thing that was wrong with it was, I think, that it was a top-down approach. That there was a schism between the money and the ideal. So how do you do that without the money? And I don't know. It's possible.
Cause you mean
If you're talking about transplanting to another planet, you need resources.
Yes. But do you think it's because the management weren't living inside? Like if the management also had to live in there, then they would be more sympathetic, or they'd have, you know what I mean, better understanding of what it's like to be in there, so they wouldn't have that distance.
I don't know. I mean, I think they were thinking of them as test subjects. They were thinking, I think they were thinking, what would it be like if we, could we do this? This may still be a plan that's going on.
Well, yeah, I mean, what's his name? Elon Musk. That guy. Yeah.
And there's the other one, terraforming guy. Another crazy libertarian who's talking about changing the whole climate. That he's talking about real estate at this point. That you should be buying up land now. on Mars.
Okay, so like the moon, how they've sold it off bit by bit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Have they? They
Yeah,
sold
you-
off the moon?
yeah, it was different countries own different bits. It's like Antarctica, different countries own different bits. Even if you can't live there, they own bits of it, the territories, and they do that with the moon. So I guess they're going to do that with Mars. That's all going.
They don't know whether they can terraform at this point. It's a theory. But he's saying, if we start a small colony here, then that will be really valuable land. But if you buy land out past that, then you're thinking ahead.
Do you think that, I mean, because I know this is like stating the super duper obvious, but it does seem easier to heal our own planet than to do all this banana pants stuff.
Right.
But it seems like one of the draws or the deep curiosities is kind of like reenacting this secluded tribal, where do you have anything to say about that specific, like, one, how obvious this is so much less probable than actually healing our planet, and why is that missed in the loop? And then two,
That's what's
of this
scary,
little
though, is that
tribe.
they don't think that's possible. These people are not willing to think in that way. But that's them. So
Even though it mathematically is just adding up, it's a lot easier to just breathe this air than make air and do all.
yeah, but
I think
think
it makes more sense to use all the resources here, and then logically at that point we'll go somewhere else. But the only thing that they might regret is that we've used up all the oil and the spaceships or maybe. I really do think they think like
Yeah.
that.
Which is
Yeah.
kind of biblical or something, like just like
Yeah.
rape and pillage and dine and dash. Yeah.
I think we all are clear on this. I mean, healing our own planet before going there. Unfortunately, probably I am developing prejudice against that. So now I have to read these books and probably scientific papers getting out of the experiment. This is the most unsustainable experiment I have ever seen about the It is in the middle of a desert.
Yeah.
They just start small and then adding more into these things. The very first
yeah,
version,
they built the whole thing. Yeah.
they didn't make a pilot project.
Right.
I mean, first you start a pilot study. Probably they took the Russian version as a pilot study. I don't know.
But they didn't have access to that
They didn't
information.
know. If the rich guys sponsoring this are going to sponsor traveling to Mars and so on, we are just going to expand the same bullshit we are doing here over there.
It's the same thinking, yeah.
I mean, the International Space Station makes more sense. It starts small. It took how is it called? The Mir as a model, and then they were expanding it in a modular way, increasing the number of people, increasing the complexity. But these guys started complex and didn't change, with the very same amount of money, it would have been possible to do something lasting longer and able to make more tests on different aspects and even working today.
Yeah.
But if this is the idea we are going to use for going to other planets, we are just going to repeat the same disaster we are doing here.
But isn't that their plan? They don't care about that. If they're not caring about pillaging here, the point is to just go somewhere else and
Start it
do
all
the
over
same
again.
thing
Yeah.
there.
I wish I could remember his name. The Mars one. But that's exactly what he's thinking. Is just let's start covering the land,
And that
monetize everything.
I understood right, there were no really scientists involved in the project from the beginning. Like the people who were in there weren't educated in.
They pretended. Yeah, they had, they did experiments and stuff.
Okay.
But it wasn't their background of.
They
Not
didn't
fully.
have regular
Yeah.
medical checkups or things like that to actually see.
They did actually. Roy Walford did
No, but
check them regularly, but it was mostly it seems to be checking their weight.
Sorry, but I think there is rich and well-paid science and there are poor scientists, and if you give a budget, but not so big, you obligate the scientists to use the brain and to review what is going to occur afterwards. I mean, something so basic like, okay, if you put iron in the cement you are doing, it's going to get oxidated and so on. So that's why you always start with a small version of the project, and then you get more money and so on. And with the same amount, you can just go step by step, increasing the scale. I feel very happy because I try to.
It doesn't make scientists look good, but it doesn't make artists look good either.
Doesn't make
You had
humanity
the
look
wrong
good.
friends.
I know the name of the guy.
Oil
Which guy?
taking,
The oil guy.
Oh, Ed Bass.
Ed Bass. He's still alive.
Yeah.
So these guys stayed in there for 12 years or not? In the Russian one? Or it was just
No,
a
they weren't
project
there
that
that long.
existed for 12 years?
Yeah, it was in existence that long. So they ran
so
out.
they rotated.
They were different. I think they were different things.
And in the American one, it was 2 years.
Right.
And at the end of that, the problem with the oxygen and the concrete, that sort of finished it off. Was for funding?
No, I think it was a
funding.
breakdown more between
The people inside.
Yeah.
Okay.
Between the people inside and between them and the management outside, where they felt like they were being manipulated.
Okay. And was there an idea at the beginning to create like this is creating a new ecosystem, self-sustaining, but was there an idea of creating a new race as well? Like a pure race? Was the selection of people?
Eugenic sort of vibe looking.
Yeah, was the selection of
How
you
is
said
right,
the
right.
first
But
one was
that's
just
got to be
white
a question,
people.
right? If you're
Yeah.
talking about doing this,
Yeah.
how are you going to
Who
choose?
gets to get in?
What about the plants? So the Russian folk were switching out plants and finding kind of symbiotic relationships between plants. So they obviously had to stop the project and bring in
Yeah,
new species. But what was happening with this one? Did they all just like randomly get put in there straight in the beginning? And then
I mean,
that's
they
it,
did
or-
have theories about why they put stuff in, but there were they had a lot of invasive problems.
And what was
They were basically living off potatoes for a long time. So
what was the official reason why it was stopped? Because 84, it kind of reminds the beginning of
this?
perestroika and
yeah, I think they felt
political
like
reasons.
that race was over at this point.
With the nutritionist guy, did they do tests afterwards on there? Like, obviously if you're losing oxygen, if you're starving your body by only eating potatoes, this is going to make you go crazy. Did they come out with any sort of outcome, like if that actually
I think
their
he
diet
did.
had an effect on their
he checked
psychology?
where their nutrients levels were.
But there was no real study done about that.
It
sort of
wasn't.
thing.
I don't think
Like
so.
psychological states.
Yeah, psychological from your body starving from nutrients and how that affects your psychology, basically.
Yeah, but she did. Pointer talked about after coming out of it being deep depression and not being at all able to deal with, all the stimuli outside.
Meaning got depressed once left, or was already a total mess?
After she left, it was it was a different set of problems between it, but coming out was really difficult. She talked about just crying constantly, not being able to stop.
And that was after 2 years of being in there.
Yeah,
So in a state kind of missing it.
yeah.
You mean like a grief?
Yeah,
It's like a
it was
loss.
like going through grief. That's how she described it.
Because she was so institutionalized in a way. She got so used to that perfect, not a utopia, but like everything was there. They didn't have crime. They didn't, you know what I mean? They didn't have all these they didn't have advertising. They didn't have external pollution.
They had plenty
Someone
of
had to drop a
problems,
rock
but it
on
was a
it.
different set of problems.
No, they had like inner conflicts, but they also didn't have that as well.
Right.
Whereas we've got both.
Yeah.
And that the outside of the advertising and pollution and that mental stimuli that really weighs on you, as we know.
Did they talk about being happy in there? Did they like
Yeah, yeah, she talked about, yeah, being the happiest time of life too.
Whoa, wow.
Yeah.
That's
I
fascinating.
mean, she met her husband there and talked
Yeah.
about how romantic it was to be in this.
That's what keeps hitting me, is that underneath all of this feels like some mythology of this kind of romantic ideal of only us.
Mhm.
You know, like a
Symbiosis.
return to paradise kind of Adam and Eve sort of deal,
Mhm.
with, I think, a good eugenics question thrown in there too, of like, pretty weird to not think of everyone, but it does feel like that's in our atmosphere right now again. This kind of like, how do I personally get back to the paradise?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Screw
That's
the
why
rest
we're here,
of them.
right?
Kinda, yeah.
You come to the Ark. This may be your happiest week ever. You don't know yet, do you?
Fascinating, really.
Yeah.
Sorry, what were the years that the tomb, when was it built?
92, I think the first 92 and 94.
Oh. I don't remember when it was built. I remember it was on the news all the time.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
And then
like,
there's a movie
right.
that's really bad.
She was like 17.
Are there collectives or communes or communities that are doing this on kind of like a low budget? Do you know of utopic,
Not a closed system.
not closed systems? Yeah.
There's one in Florida I just learned about this year. It's not a closed system, but it's called the Venus Project.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
Jacques somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually I heard about it 3 times. It was like one of those weird things where I heard about it. I had never heard about it, not that far since I live in Florida. And then 3 different times from 3 different sources I heard about it. But I haven't been there yet. I'm going to go there actually sometime after I get back.
Looks familiar.
Yeah, because that's the reference that I first sent out to people when I first started doing the art project, was to look at that Venus
Was the Venus Project. Okay,
You know,
you
just as a
were one of the
model.
3 times, but I heard about it from 2 students, one in the fall class. A student from Mexico told me about it, and then a student in my spring class told me about it, and then you in the meantime had emailed me. So I thought that was very bizarre, but good. That, I mean, you know. But it seems really interesting. I mean, I saw the video, and one of my students lent me the whole DVD actually, and
It's good.
Did any of the other participants write about it besides Jane?
She was the main one.
'Cause I'm
Abigail
curious,
Alling
since
also
they're
wrote
feuding
about it.
about like what their different,
Yeah,
some of them felt.
you get different
Yeah.
viewpoints. Abigail Alling is the other one. This guy.
and there are only 8 people in Biosphere too? 8.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyone's got any last questions or thoughts?
I was going to say, I guess the closed system is really just focused on either another planet or conditions getting to the point to where you can't be in the outside
Right.
atmosphere. So maybe,
That it could exist here. Maybe that's what this is here for.
yeah. Or I'm just thinking like that's, you know, there aren't, you're saying there don't seem to be many other experiments like this, but maybe because this one makes a lot of assumptions already about where we let things get to.
Right.
Which
Right.
makes it a little dire.
I
I think
maybe Ed Bass is going to try to get back in there when things get.
Yeah, I mean, that might be.
But he doesn't
I
have
mean,
rights to it anymore.
It does seem like the question you were saying, like maybe it's like karmic about him funding it, but I also feel like that is a thing that people in industries where they don't want us to lose dependence on, like their solutions are kind of like this, where it's like, oh, we'll do asteroid mining, or we'll like go do this crazy
Yeah.
extravagant thing,
Yeah, he's a big one.
because it seems like, because the
It's industry.
other
Keep you
solutions
as a
are to not
consumer.
be dependent on
Right.
their industry. Yeah.
Yeah, that video about the Venus project made an accent on that these companies are interested in making their products, you know, breakable in terms of just 1 year or 2 years to make us buy a new stuff.
scary thing to think about for a world breakable after 2 years.
But that's what China is, isn't it? China's remaking everything. It's like constantly making things because it's got that expendable life.
Yeah.
You know, so everything that's made in China, I mean, that's where their economy is built on, that,
Yeah.
isn't it?
I was just
Disposable stuff.
thinking of like the atmosphere being breaks after 2 years. That's what happened. That's what happened in the
Yeah,
atmosphere.
right.
Yeah. Sort of like, oh, we just have to make the solution for 2 years, and then
I just read
it's
it.
too late to go back.
Then it goes into so many sci-fi movies, obviously Interstellar and, I don't know, 2001 or whatever, but also Logan's Run, you know, the one where everyone dies when they're 21. You know, you can't live longer than 21, so you just got to get to 21, isn't it? You know, so it's kind of like your 2 years thing, you know.
Oh,
It's
that's
very
a great
good.
movie.
That was a way to deal with
Disaster.
overpopulation. Was that it?
Yeah, they don't know they're dying.
Population.
They think they're doing this ascension. And their hand turns a different color, and then they're like, and they go to this great ceremony, and everybody cheers them, and they like fly up into the sky, and they're basically blown up.
Incinerate.
Yeah.
And then one guy's turns, and he's not ready to die, and whenever he is ready to like run, runner, run, and he's like very groovy, and he's trying to like find a way to survive.
Well, he has the added conflict of being a person that's meant to lead,
Shoot,
get people,
right,
round up the unwanting
right. Betrayal of the people that try, the runners.
Yeah. Which then, I guess that's the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
That's now played on that. So this mythology of these kind of systems and trying to get out of them, but being in them, it's continuing, isn't it? You know, so we must obviously love them. You know, because we keep making stories and films about them.
Yeah.
Also this reality show in UK for Eddie. I was like, I think the project was supposed to be the 1 year, and then like only 20 people live in this island. It's like, and then in the beginning they have some food and stuff, but then they have to kind of build everything, and then they're trying to be like self-sustainable, and have all these people that are different people that have different skills. And it's a bit like this, but then it's like, it's different. What happened? It's like maybe show wasn't appropriate, but then they're supposed to film it, but they're still living there.
Oh yeah, they're still living there.
Oh my God.
Living on this island. They get on. Yeah, they've been living there for ages now. 10 years, haven't they?
I don't know.
5 years. They've been there a while. Haven't they?
They're still doing that.
No, they're not being filmed. They just like living there. So you can stay here if you
Really?
Yeah,
I think it was maybe like based on something like this.
Yes.
Like maybe.
Can I ask something? It is just, how to say, challenging me a lot. This. You started saying you were going to say some words about the history of communities, and you got a very good example. Now, from your point of view, we are just starting here at the Ark, okay? But what kind of lessons from there would you like us to apply here, or what do you think is missing there that we are feeling? It's a crazy question. I don't even know.
We're only here for a week, so I think we probably won't have the same problem.
I don't know.
Maybe
I'm hoping we don't
something
run
about
out of oxygen.
Maybe that's a good question for the academic day, because then you will have experienced more of the art. Maybe it's hard for him to answer. What's missing? Because it's the beginning.
My answer is it's economic disparity that causes this problem.
Economic prosperity.
Disparity. It's an imbalance. There's people who are managing,
Some have,
the
some
money, and the guinea pigs are us. So
The rich and the poor
yeah.
together.
like everywhere.
It's systemic, we have to get back to.
Well, it also feels like the paradise is, and despite her loving it and crying so much, which is really weird and interesting to me, but it's so controlled. And it's, when I think about, that we are primates that are, whether we like it or not, symbiotically engaged and breathing in and out of the system that we are of and it. And so we have all these, it's like such an extreme separation from this animal self.
Mm-hmm.
And the word that seems completely missing is freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Like on every level. And so like, are we desiring to surrender freedom? And why?
And that's what's going to be interesting, I think, in this week here.
Right.
What are the limits of freedom? What is it? What is it that you have to give up in order to get along?
We did.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
We were already surrendered. First step. It's already working.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also just can't imagine what people would choose to only be around 7 other people for
Lordy,
how
lordy.
many years. So that's strange.
And some weird thing of we can adapt to anything. That's truly anything. Torture or biosphere or being rich or being poor or whatever.
Cockroaches. Yeah, a lot of cockroaches.
Really?
What was
How
that?
did they get into that closed system?
Yeah.
They were living where?
Something, it came in with something.
Cockroaches are everywhere. They're on
Even in the
Mars.
desert.
They're on
What's
Mars.
Did it eat
Cockroaches are on Mars.
Yeah.
How do
I
you know
believe if
that?
there's going to be life on Mars, it's going to be a cockroach.
But you don't know that.
don't know that. They're not really
You're making that up.
Yeah.
Grace, are you just, we're gonna go home and be like, there are cockroaches on Mars.
There are no cockroaches in Berlin.
on Mars.
Good way to
But
diversify
cockroaches,
the
There's a lot of people talking about that.
no, the cockroaches are the hardest living. They survive all atmospheres.
Yeah.
So if you get one of them in the shuttle going up,
Actually,
Yeah.
yeah, not for us, but for life. On that fun note.
That's a pretty low bar you got.
yes. Thank you, Eric. So, just before Rebecca does her fabulous introduction into our inner world and our psyches, we can do